Hey everyone, in our last video we talked about some basic movement or how to make our character move in our platformer game. In this video I'm going to talk about how to add some animation to our character so that doesn't look like they're just sliding across the platforms. Now before I started recording today I did some work ahead of time. I've actually gone and added my images to my Greenfoot images folder already. So if we go to set image, you can kind of see that I've added a lot of images. But I'm going to use these four images, PWalk, PWalk 2, PWalk 3, and PWalk 4 to animate my character. I also have a set of images to make my character animate left if we're moving left. I like to use separate images instead of having Greenfoot mirror the image because I just feel like it's a lot cleaner and it's a lot easier to code two different animations than it is to have Greenfoot kind of have that programmed in there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the player class, and to do our animation what we're going to do is we need to create a couple things. We need to create a public integer called frame, and that's equal to 1. That's going to keep track of which picture we should be showing on the screen. Then we need to import our images we're going to use or tell Greenfoot where they are. So we're going to say Greenfoot image, and then I just like to name them what they're named in the folder so I don't get confused. So it's PWalk 1 and that equals new Greenfoot image, and then in parentheses and quotes we have to write exactly what this file is called. So it's p_walk1.png, and that is case sensitive, so you have to make sure that if there's a capital letter in your file name you have it capitalized in your code. I'm actually going to copy this and paste this 4 times. And Greenfoot is showing me an error here because we can't have things named the same. So this is going to be PWalk 2, PWalk 3, and PWalk 4. And then I'm going to go through and change these images to PWalk 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now again, sticking with our theme of putting things in methods, I'm going to scroll to the bottom here and add a method. I'm going to call this a public void, and I'm going to call this animate right. And so what we're going to do here is just use a series of if statements and else ifs to animate our character. We've done this before in other games. It just is going to be different for however many pictures you're going to use. So I'm going to say if, and I'm going to say if the frame is equal to 1, then what I want to do is set the image to PWalk 1, and then I'm going to set the frame to 2. So I'm going to say frame equals 2. And now I can actually copy and paste this a little bit to save on some typing. And I'm going to do this 4 times. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to an else if though. It's important that they're else ifs, or else you're going to skip frames when you're animating and it's going to look kind of wonky. So this is going to be frame 2. And if I'm on frame 2, I'm going to show picture 2, and then I want to go to frame 3. I'm going to change this to an else if. And if I'm on frame 3, I'm going to show picture 3 and then go to frame 4. And then the last one I'm going to write else. And I can do an else if here, or I could just do an else. So I'm just going to go with an else. Else show PWalk 4, and then the frame goes back to 1. So basically we have this big loop of images that is creating our animation. So if I press compile here, I should probably get no errors. I'm going to now come up to my check keys method, and right here, if I'm going right, I want to animate right. So I'm going to say animate right, like this, and then I'm going to compile, and we're going to check and see that I did this right. Now, if you misspell or have a typo here, you will not get a terminal error, or you won't get an error here in the code, but you will get a terminal error when you run your program. So we'll press new player, we'll press run, and now my player looks like he's walking, or he's ready to walk, and if I move right, he does move. He kind of tiptoes because the animation is really fast. So like here, his legs are moving super fast. So we can actually customize the speed of this animation by going back into the player class and creating an integer right here, a public int called animation timer. And you can make that equal to 1 or 0. It really doesn't matter. But basically, we're going to use this as a skip timer so that we can slow down our animation. So basically, what I like to do here is put this in either the act or in the check keys right at the beginning. So I go animation timer equals animation timer plus 1. And so that counter is always counting up. And what I can do to slow down the animation is I can go right above the method call, and I can put an if here, if the animation timer, and then I'm going to put a percent sign, and then let's going to go with like 5 right now, equals 0. So what this means is this is modulus math. It means if I divide the animation timer by 5 and the remainder of that problem is 0. So it's checking the remainder. Or in a more simple term, it's basically checking to see if the animation timer is a multiple of 5. As this counts up, if it's a multiple of 5, then we're going to animate right. So I like to put this in the check keys right here because we're using it right here, but check keys is always running, so this animation timer is always counting up. So press compile here, and if we drop the player back into the program and press run, now he's animating a lot slower. You may not be able to see it perfectly on the video, but he is moving way slower there. So now if you wanted to animate your character moving left, you would do this similar kind of code. You do not have to make another frame as long as your animations are the same length. So if I had 4 left animation pictures and 4 right animation pictures, this is fine. If it's not equal, you might want to make a different frame counter. You can use the same animation timer. And if your animations are different lengths, you might want to change this if statement in your left key code so that it changes your left key animation. But basically, this is the kind of animation that we can use for our character. We can also implement this kind of stuff when we add bad guys to the game.